Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, how are you today? I hope you all feel good. My name is Hilya Rahmadhani, and in this video, I'm gonna show you an expression for discussion, and that's divided to two. First is to chairperson, and the second is to everyone. Chairperson. The purpose of our discussions is blah blah blah. Let's discuss blah blah blah. If we talk about blah blah blah, it seems necessary to discuss blah 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 and decide which is the most and the least blah blah blah. Let me start with blah blah blah. Let's begin with blah blah blah. Let's discuss blah 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 first. First, we need to blah blah blah. Who would like to begin? Can you explain your point a little more clearly? We can see what other people think about this. Who has not had a chance to speak yet? Is there any last comment on this point before we move on the next one? So we have two opposing arguments here. On the one hand, blah blah blah. On the other hand, blah blah blah. In other words, most of us think that blah blah blah. Can we draw any conclusion from what we have been saying? Giving your opinion. I think that blah blah blah. In my view or in my opinion, blah blah blah. As far as I can see or I'm concerned, blah blah blah. Surely, blah blah blah. The main reason for my opinion is blah blah blah. To my mind, blah blah blah. In fact, blah blah blah. To the best of my knowledge, blah blah blah. The way I see it, blah blah blah. If you ask me, blah blah blah, I'm not sure if blah blah blah. It is said or believe or know that blah blah blah. It is obvious that blah blah blah. It seems to me that blah blah blah. I have the or feeling that blah blah blah. Well, I'd say blah blah blah. You can take it from the that blah blah blah. If you ask me blah blah blah, it seems to me that blah blah blah. I think or I feel or I reckon or I believe blah blah blah. If you want my opinion, blah blah blah. First of all, or start with I like to point out blah blah blah. There can be no doubt that blah blah blah. Nobody will deny that blah blah blah. Everyone knows blah blah blah. Let's get this clear first, blah blah blah. The point I'm trying to make is blah blah blah. I'm absolutely convinced that blah blah blah. The way I look at or I see it is blah blah blah. Giving an explanations. Look, it's like this. The reason for this is blah blah blah. Just let me explain blah blah blah. Well, the thing is blah blah blah. What I mean is blah blah blah. The main problem is blah blah blah. Well, the reason is blah blah blah. Above all, we must keep in mind that blah blah blah. The lancing argument. On the one hand, and on the other hand, blah blah blah. Some people say that blah blah blah. Others believe that blah blah blah. It is said that blah blah blah. However, blah blah blah. Asking questions about someone else's opinion or explanations. Could you tell me what's your opinion about? How do you feel about? What do you think about or of? Do you think or feel? Might I ask you? Do you mean that? Do you agree? Do you share my point of view? What do you mean when you say? What do you mean by that? I don't fully understand. Can you give some example? Could you explain to me? Just tell me the reason why. I just don't see why or what or how. I didn't quite get that. Could someone please tell me I don't really understand. Are you saying that? I beg your pardon? Excuse me, did you say that? Next, agreeing and disagreeing. I quite agree. I couldn't agree with you more. That's true, alright. Exactly. Precisely. Right. Certainly. Definitely. I think so, too. That's just my feeling or opinion. That's a very good or important point. Yes, of course. Definitely. Absolutely. That's exactly what I mean or say. I agree because blah blah blah. I strongly agree with you. I couldn't agree more. That seems very logical to me. I share your point of view. That's exactly how I see it. How very true. Yes, indeed. I agree. Completely or entirely. I entirely or completely agree with you on that. That's just it. You are quite or so right. I don't think so either. That's just how I see it or I feel about it too. You've got a good point there. Marvelous. Yes, that's obvious. That's why I think. So do I. So am I. I'm favorite of what you've been saying. I can see your point, but that's a very good point. But yes, perhaps, but yes, but on the other hand, but I agree up to a certain point, but I suppose so. I don't think it is as simple as that. You may be right there. Yes, possibly although. Yes, up to a point. Yes, in a way. Well, it depends. I see what you mean, but I think that's not the whole story. Yes, but there's also another aspect to consider. I'm afraid I can't agree because blah blah blah. I disagree with you. I'm afraid. I don't quite agree there. I'm not quite so sure, really. Do you really think so or believe that? Well, that's one way of looking at it. But you can really mean that. I wouldn't say so. I don't think you are right. I don't want to argue with you, but blah blah blah. I don't agree with you. I'm sorry, but I have to disagree with you. Are you seriously guessing that? No, I really can't agree. I'm afraid. I'm not so certain or at all sure if that's true or correct. I'm sorry, I can't agree. I'm not convinced that. Well, I have my doubts about that. You don't really mean that, do you? I don't think so. Surely, you don't mean that. I can't go all the way with you on the point. Summing up. To sum up, blah blah blah. To conclude, to summarize, blah blah blah. Taking everything into considerations, blah blah blah. I can suggest the following order. Do you agree? I believe the most important is and the least significant is we have agreed on the following order. We have decided the number 1 is blah blah blah, number 2 is blah blah blah, and number 3 is blah blah blah. Okay, I think that's all for me. Thank you for watching. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.